This is Samantha Jellison of Securely Insured, and this is Medicare On The Mind. Today we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about Medicare Advantage versus Medicare Supplement, aka Medigap. This is to help you make a better informed decision for when it comes time for you to enroll in either or. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive right into it. Okay, so with Medicare Advantage, the best way that we can really describe this plan is what's known as a bundled plan. So when I say bundled, it means that it combines your Part A plus your Part B. Part A, hospital, Part B, medical of original Medicare, and in most cases, it usually includes your Part D, which is your prescription drug plan. All this combined equals what is known as Part C. And in addition to this, most of these plans typically cover dental, vision, and hearing benefits. Some plans contain more benefits, but for the most part, you will see the majority of these plans covering some form of dental, vision, and hearing benefits. And I like to refer to these plans as a pay as you go, because these plans typically are zero to no, or I'll say this, they're low to no cost premiums per month. And what that means is that you will still have to pay your Part B premium, which in 2025 is $185 per month. But most $0 Medicare Advantage plans have no additional premium and come with a lot of additional benefits. And when I say pay as you go, it means that your responsibility financially is typically in the form of co-payments, co-insurance, and deductibles, which is why I like to call this pay as you go. And when it comes to a Medigap plan, Medigap plans are going to be your original Medicare, which is your Part A and your Part B. And the way these plans work is that they are supplemental to that. If you remember, I mentioned in a previous video that original Medicare, your Part B medical, typically is only covered at 80%. So if you were to remain on original Medicare, it would mean that you would be responsible for 20% of your medical costs. A Medigap plan is a private insurance plan that essentially picks up the gaps in original Medicare, or in other words, that additional 20%. It usually covers your co-payments, your co-insurance, and your deductibles in most cases, depending on the plan that you choose. And I like to call this plan a prepaid plan, because by paying a monthly premium, which can be substantial here, you are covering those additional costs that you would otherwise be responsible for in a Medicare Advantage plan. The downside to this, though, is that these plans do not cover dental, vision, or hearing benefits. If those were things that you decided were essential for your healthcare needs, you could look into purchasing additional policies of standalone dental, vision, and hearing benefits in their own policy. The other thing to note here is that this does not cover your prescription drug plan. You will have to purchase that separately. So with the cost difference between the two, Medicare Advantage is going to run you generally about $185 a month as a premium, and then you will have some additional costs to go along with that. As mentioned, co-payments to see specialists, co-payments when you stay in the hospital for the first few days, etc., etc., etc. With a Medigap plan, you'd be looking at paying that $185 per month in addition to your plan premium, which can vary. It could be anywhere between $50 and $350 a month. And the reason it has such a large range is because that plan premium does not stay for the entire life of your policy. It goes up on a yearly basis with rate increases. Rate increases could typically be anywhere between 6 to 14% per year. Some companies are more volatile and tend to raise their annual premiums, their monthly premiums annually much higher. It's important to work with somebody who is familiar with how different carriers, different insurance companies will typically on an average increase those premiums because your plan A from one carrier is going to be the exact same plan from a different carrier. The only difference here is going to be cost. You can shop around and find a carrier, a plan G, I guess, from one carrier that has a very low rate, but then come to find out the following year that it has a volatile increase that brings that monthly premium up by $20 to $50, and that happens year over year. So again, you have to work with someone knowledgeable about different companies and their rates in order to financially prepare for that. So we're going to say, for the sake of ease here, your monthly plan premium could be right around $100 a month. And then you have your Part D plan, which the national average is typically about $30 to $35. So you can estimate that as a monthly premium. And as mentioned, it does not include dental, vision, or hearing benefits. So if you were to look into getting an additional policy to cover those ancillary benefits, that will really just depend on the type of coverage that you need. So you can factor that in, but for the sake of ease, we're going to just stick with this amount. So as of now, the cost difference initially when you are enrolling into either a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medigap plan could be the difference of about $150 plus, give or take a few dollars here and there. Also depending if you do add ancillary benefits. And for most people, that's what it really boils down to, is the cost. The thing too that I like to point out with these plans is that the downside of a Medicare Advantage plan is that you typically have to stay within networks. And you usually have to have prior authorizations for procedures, medications, surgeries, and you also will need referrals to see specialists outside of your primary care physician. With a Medigap plan, the massive benefit to these is that you can see any provider that accepts original Medicare. And that gives you a lot of flexibility in your healthcare needs. Really, that is how both plans are broken down in their side-by-side differences. One thing I do want to point out, though, is when it comes to enrollment, Medicare Advantage is usually not going to deny you coverage. If you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, and as long as you have an active Part A and Part B, you generally are going to be accepted into a Medicare Advantage plan, and you can change that Medicare Advantage plan each year. If the plan changes and it's not keeping up with your needs, you can certainly look into other various plans that might better suit you. Medigap, on the other hand, is a little trickier because you will typically select a Medigap plan, let's just say a high deductible Plan G, and in the first 6 months that you have turned 65 and you have activated your Part B, you get guaranteed issue here. You are able to enroll in just about any plan, and you will not have to answer medical questions. You don't have to deal with underwriting. But as soon as you are outside of that and you are shopping around for a new plan because maybe the rates increased a tad too much and you're looking to save some money, the issue here is that you are now subject to underwriting because these are private insurance companies and they can deny you. So it is important to make the decision based off of these main frame situations for each of these. You can certainly switch from a Medigap plan to a Medicare Advantage plan a heck of a lot easier than you can switch from a Medicare Advantage plan to a Medigap plan. So just keep these in mind, and hopefully this has helped you understand the major differences between the two. Again, my name is Samantha Jellison. This is Medicare on the Mind, and please, if you have questions or comments, please drop them in the comments below, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have there, or if you want to share your experience, we would always appreciate it. Thank you, and stay tuned for our next episode, where we will be taking an even deeper dive into the world of Medicare. Thank you, and have a great day.